Thank you for the invitation. I'm sorry that I can't do this in Estonian, but I hope I can do it. I can do it in English. If you have any problems with it, just raise your hand and ask a question. You can do it during the presentation or afterwards. There should be some time for questions. Just a few words about the organization I come from. I head up a part of the Confederation of Danish Industries, which organize all the waste collectors and waste handlers from the private side. So I'm going to go a little more into that. I've been asked to speak about the developments in the Danish waste management sector, because we've apparently have chosen a somewhat different path than most of the other European countries, where we have more focus on the private market than on the public sector. So, but let's dive into it. It's first a few words about the organization that I head up. Then a little about the evolution of the waste sector in Denmark. The model we have decided and that we have almost implemented in law today, and then why we chose the market model. With regard to the waste and resource industry, then I have listed our members over here. We have some private local Danish companies, and we also have a lot of foreign companies that have invested in Denmark. The latest addition to our members is a resource down in the corner here, which is essentially a Norwegian company based. Formed by Quantafuel and a finance company, which has built a sorting facility for plastic, metal, and milk and drinking cartons in Esbjerg in Denmark, more or less around here. And they've spent about 100 million euros to build that facility, and that's coming online within the next 2 weeks. So we have great hopes for that. So some of our other members, Solum, as you can see up here, have formed a similar partnership with the Schwarz Group from Germany. Their waste division called PreZero, which already has about 8 sorting plants throughout Germany, and they've pledged and just bought a site in the middle of Zealand over here, around where the 5 is. And just a month ago bought a site to build a similar sorting plant there. And alongside with the sorting plant we already have in Aalborg, which is where the many darts are in the north part of Jutland. Then we have more than enough capacity to sort all the plastic and metal waste in Denmark. But that's our members. This is a few words about the organization. It is a private industry organization, and we only work for the members that we have, and the principles for our work is to promote a circular economy, of course, a completely circular economy, and doing so by involving the private market. In order to promote a circular economy, then we work to enhance the market for recycled materials. The way we do that is both by negotiating legislation in Denmark, but also at the EU level, and negotiating standards for what recycled waste should live up to in order for the production industry to utilize it. So because that's the only way we can see that we can gain trust to the materials. If you want a recycled material to make a new drinking bottle or glass bottle or metal container or something else, then you need to trust that the material actually works on the same level as virgin materials. So that's our main focus. a few words about me, just to give an idea that I hopefully know what I'm talking about. I head up the secretariat at the waste and resource industry. I've been working with waste for about 20 years. I've worked for most of the Danish ministry within the field of waste for a number of private organizations. I also got a law degree both from the University of Copenhagen and one from McGill School of Law in California. And I've been lecturing at the University of Copenhagen, both in constitutional law and environmental law. So yeah, that's my background basically. The evolution of the waste sector in Denmark. Where do we come from? Before 1985, Denmark did like a lot of countries around the world still do today. We landfilled most of our waste. And then around 85, the municipalities were given a monopoly on all waste in Denmark, both household waste and industrial waste, in order to move us from landfilling to waste incineration. Denmark also has a large district heating network, which covers about 2/3 of every household in Denmark. So we can utilize the heat that comes from waste burning. So inside of 20 years, then we moved from landfilling to waste incineration. But then we just didn't move away from there. The statistics in Denmark today is that we recycle or in other ways material recover 74% of all waste. We incinerate 23%, and we landfill between 3% and 4%. It's 4% this year. It was 3% last year. The incineration covers 25% of our district heating, which in turn covers 65% of the household. The total amount of waste in Denmark is 12.4 million tons, and the households stand for 3.3 million tons. So that's the basic statistics of the size of the waste sector in Denmark. Some of the earlier changes that we made in Denmark, it has been a very long journey coming from a municipality-driven waste sector to a privately driven waste sector. So we started the debate in the year 2000, basically. So it's taken 20 years to agree on it in Parliament in order to implement it. But we did take some first steps back in 2007. Where we moved the collection and treatment of industrial and commercial waste out from the municipalities and into the private sector. The municipalities kept the sorting points where you could dump your waste, both as a household and smaller private companies, but it was changed from everybody has to pay to it, whether or not they use it or not, to a pay by use principle, which also changed a lot in how the private companies operated. And then the municipal plants for handling, for treating commercial waste was to be shut down. So that was the first step we took about 14 years ago. The model in Denmark comes from two political agreements, which was formed both in 2020 and in 2022. And the market, it was a total turn towards the market. The idea was that a treatment of all waste is supposed to happen on the market under the normal principle of competition. So all companies shall use a registered waste company to collect and treat their waste. the municipalities can still collect commercial waste, but only from very small companies that only produce an amount of waste in size and type as an average household. It's easier to see up here actually. The companies can also still use the municipal collection points as they could back from 2007. The way the system is set up, the municipalities are still responsible for organizing the collection of household waste from the households, but about 80% of the municipalities tender out that job to the private sector. After collection, they are now required to put all the waste out onto the market. The idea behind that was that we wanted to collect collect all the waste on the private market, so we could build facilities like the one in Esbjerg and similar biogas facilities for organic waste and so on and so forth. So we can use the economy of scale basically. So we can get a better treatment for less money. So that's the whole idea behind the reform. Other parts of the agreement, we all in order to build the foundation for large private investments in treatment facilities, we recognized that we had to collect all waste the same way, whether or not it was from private households or from industry. So we made national legislation saying that you should sort basically these 10 types of waste: the metal waste, glass waste, paper, plastic, so on. And it should be sorted in exactly the same way across households and industry in order to make it easier and more feasible to build large treatment plants. Earlier we had at the moment we have 98 municipalities which earlier could decide on how you should sort waste in that municipality. And that just made it impossible to build a plant that could actually treat all the different types of waste that was collected. So we made one national plan and one national way to do it. That was accompanied by national pictograms on all bins, both for household and commercial and industry waste, promoting the idea that when a citizen see that pictogram, whether they're at home or at work, on the summer cottage or wherever, they will always know what to do, what belongs in that bin, in order to promote the best sorting quality possible. There's also going to be a national waste supervision from 25 towards all companies and all waste collectors in the waste sector. And we're going to have additional control on the incineration plants in order to make sure that they don't receive any waste that should have been recycled. So that's also going to be a national program which is taking form at the moment, where you're going to have national guidelines and you're going to have supervision from the government towards each of the 23 incineration plants. To make sure that they got a program in place where they don't receive any recyclable waste, and if they do, they're supposed to report it to the national government, which are then going to visit all the companies that contributed to that container of waste, to make sure that they got the sorting scheme set up the way they should, so it shouldn't happen again. That's at least the plan. It's we're going to have to wait to next year to see whether or not it works or not. And then the municipalities are supposed to close all the remaining facilities for recycling waste coming from households by the year 27. And that has pretty much already happened. All the facilities worth selling has already been sold to the private sector. Regarding the incineration and landfills, then the municipalities by now own almost all incineration capacity. 10 years ago, it was different. It was more or less half and half privately owned and half municipality owned. But the competition between the municipalities and the private companies didn't go so well, because the municipalities have much more playing cards in their deck than private companies got. They can use their role as an authority in the waste market to direct waste to their own companies. So they outcompeted the private companies basically, and then bought them cheap. That was a great scheme. So by now they're all almost all municipality owned. It has been a monopoly for the municipalities directing where waste where to be incinerated, but from 25, it's next year. It's all going to be tendered out onto the market. When a municipality collect the waste for incineration, they're going to tender it out onto the market, even if they own their own incineration plant. And all the industrial and commercial waste is for incineration is going to be on the market. So the collectors decide where to go with it and what to pay for it. All the landfills remain publicly owned, and the municipalities can still direct the waste for landfilling to those places. But that is only relevant for a few industries actually. So we're also going to introduce the producer responsibility system for packaging waste next year, and the way that's going to be done, then the collection and treatment from companies will be done by private waste collectors, but will be financed by the packaging producers. With regard to the household waste, then the municipalities are obligated to organize the collection of the materials. We're still going to collect all materials like materials and not separate it up into packaging waste and other waste. So it's going to be all metal and all plastic and all glass in the same bin, or in each the same bin. But regardless whether or not it's packaging waste or not packaging waste. And then all of the waste collected by the municipalities after collection is going to be turned over to the producer responsibility organizations, and then they're going to tender it out onto the market and make sure it's going for recycling. And then they're going to split the payment with the municipalities by a percentage that the ministry is going to issue regarding how much is packaging waste in a metal container and how much is other waste. We got a similar system for electronic waste as most European countries do, given the EU rules. So the last point: why did we choose the market? This is some of the visions from the political agreement saying that the transition to a more circular economy requires a paradigm shift in the waste sector, because it was designed basically to collect everything in one big pile and then either landfill it or incinerate it. And then you don't have to be very particular with what you dump in the container, because it's only one container. It only goes one place, and then you lit a match to it basically, and that's it. So recycling waste is a totally different beast. I'm going to come back to that. Today, back then, before 2020, we had a wide range of different waste sorting schemes across the municipalities, and as I stated earlier, that's just not optimal for making a circular economy and making a recycling scheme. So that couldn't continue. And the idea behind the agreement from the political side is also to support Danish companies in developing a green recycling sector, because Denmark was extremely fast moving from landfilling to incineration. But then we didn't move anywhere else, because now we spent 20 billion Danish kroners, or about 3 billion euros, to build the incineration plants. And then we wanted to use our incineration plants, and then we didn't want to recycle anything because then we didn't have anything to burn. So that's how we became the country that burned more waste than anybody in Europe, and we didn't really want to move away from that position. So we didn't have a recycling sector at all. Basically, we still recycled some glass for beer bottles and whatever with Carlsberg, and that was basically it. And that just wouldn't do anymore. So now the focus is on recycling and a circular economy. And as I said, we were stuck burning waste, and we didn't move at all towards recycling. If you looked at the European waste statistics, then Denmark was moving continuously down the slope from countries recycling a lot of waste to countries not recycling anything. We were just falling and falling and falling. So that wouldn't do. And the business waste alone, when we separated the systems up in 2007, but the business waste alone wouldn't be enough to finance a green treatment sector for waste, especially not when you had the municipalities still competing to collect and treat waste also from industry to a wider extent than the law actually permitted. So you had no basis of funding a private treatment plant because you couldn't be sure that there would be waste enough for your plant, because the municipalities could basically draw the blanket away from under you, so that was why we had to make a total change. As I promised to come back to the change from incineration to recycling waste is that with the incineration you just have to have an incinerator and then just dump every bit of waste you can into it and light a match to it. If you're going to recycle waste, it's a totally different game, because with the recycling waste it has to end up on the private market at some point, because it's not going to be recycled by a municipality, because by its very nature, recycling waste means that you take waste glass and you put it into new glass production at the glass plant, or the bottle plant, or marmalade jar plant, or whatever. And the municipalities are not producing packaging for marmalade or beer or anything else. So at some point it has to end up on the private market. The debate in Denmark was just to move that point closer to the collection point, because our experience was that the municipalities thought about waste from the waste bin and saying, well, now I got this pile of waste, what can I do with it? Then I can sort it into 10,000 different things. And once they had spent a lot of money doing that, only then they turned to the market and said, well, now you have to buy these 10,000 different things that I have sorted it into. And the market just turned around and said, well, we're not interested. And then we just spent a lot of billions of dollars for nothing at all. So we're trying to change that, so we think from the market and back to the bin. So we look at the market and see what type of waste, what type of resources are you interested in, and then we design the sorting and collection system and the treatment plants in order to provide those materials. So they decide on how we're going to sort and not what's convenient for how you want to buy a bin or collect a bin, or how many employees you want in the municipalities and whatever. That's kind of secondary. It used to be the primary. So yeah, we are planning it that way. Then the producer responsibility system is also going to be a secure system in order to facilitate more recycling, especially with the new EU regulation on packaging, which is going require that when you produce a new plastic bottle, a certain amount of that plastic bottle comes from recycled plastic, because that's gonna raise the market price, and that's gonna raise the opportunities for investing in recycling plants. And that's going to be monitored by the government directly. Following the political agreements and the new laws, we've invested between 150 and 250 million euros in waste treatment plants in Denmark, and we are investing in a lot more plants for all the different types of waste. We are currently looking into such exotic things as a recycling diapers and mattresses from beds. So we're trying to recycle anything that's possible to recycle. And last but not least, then we still need a strong cooperation with the municipalities, because this system is only going to work if the municipalities have an active dialogue with the households about sorting their waste correctly. Because if they don't sort their waste correctly, then the plants we build targeting that bin specifically, if that bin doesn't contain the materials that we agreed it should, then it's not going to work at all. So they still have a very large part in the sector, and a strong cooperation between private industry and the treatment facilities and the municipalities are still needed in the future. I think that just about covers it. If there's any questions, then please just raise your hand. I don't know if you need a mic or something.
Yes, we have a mic. So,
okay.
Thank you. Very interesting to hear. In Denmark, do the packaging producers or the producers cooperate with sorting facilities to take a look what kind of materials are taken out and then make better packages?
Yeah. There's a large cooperation between the treatment facilities and the producers, because like I said, you have to target the materials exactly to whether or not you want to make a drinking bottle or meat packaging or something else. So they are talking all the time about what are the qualities that we're going to deliver from the treatment plants.
Thank you very much. Great presentation of the Danish system. I just have a question on the collection. How many bins you then have at the households? Is it like 10 bins?
No.
And whether there is actually also a general waste that would still remain after all the collection sites?
Yeah, there certainly is. These are the 10 things which are in Danish even. But I'm just gonna read them out loud. It's food and drinking cartons, glass, paper, metal, plastic, hazardous waste, cardboard, textiles, residual waste, and food waste. So
black one,
that's the black one. Yeah. Actually, the municipalities decided the colors for it, so I'm not going to take either credit nor critique for that. But there still are a residual bin that we're trying to limit as far as possible. But there is still going to be a residual bin when the producer responsibilities come into force next year. Then all the bins for recycling is going to be basically free for the households, and they're only going to pay for the residual waste and the organic waste or the food waste. So we also hope that's going to encourage people to use the bins for recycling more than they are today, because there's still a large percentage, maybe 30% or something like that, which is sorted into the residual bin instead of a recycled bin. So that is the principle behind it. But we have tried to put as much as possible into the recycling bins.
Yeah, I have a question about costs.
Yeah, sure.
How much, like approximately, it's 1 month cost for a family to get rid of the?
Yeah, well, it's on an annual basis. It's probably around 400 euros. So about 35 euros a month or something like that for Danish households. But when you compare that, we talked a little bit about that yesterday. When you compare that to Estonian prices, you also have to bear in mind that Denmark is the country with the highest prices for households when they're buying food or cars or anything at all. It's the absolute most extreme prices in Europe.
Okay, and another question is this collection system. Is it all Denmark has like the same system, like same amount of containers, and everything is like all the same, or different between black houses or smaller households?
Well, it is different. It is a little bit different from one municipality to the next, and it's also different between individual households and apartment buildings. The way the rules are set up, then the municipalities does have a few options. Because as you asked about how many bins a household in Denmark has, the political feasibility was that you could have 4 or a maximum of 5 bins per household, because they didn't see 10 bins for them, and certainly not 20 bins if we were going to do packaging separately from other waste. So you had 4 to 5 bins per individual household. So you are allowed to combine certain things. You're allowed to combine the paper and cardboard in one bin, or in one room in a bin. Most bins in Denmark is divided into 2 rooms. So you can basically have paper and cardboard on one side, and then you can have plastic and metal and the milk and drinking cartons on the other side, and that's one bin. And then the next bin a very typical solution is residual waste on one side and food waste on the other side. That's also one bin. And then you can go on with the other fractions, and that's the way you can keep it within 4 bins for an individual household. When it comes to apartment buildings and summer cottages, then you have a more individual collection, because when you got a lot of apartment buildings, you have bigger containers, and you got more containers anyway. So you got only metal in one bin, plastic in another, so on and so forth. So you don't combine waste the same to the same extent when you are talking about apartment buildings and the summer cottages. Because with the summer cottages, we're aiming for collection sites and not individual bins by the house.
Thank you very much. It was a very inspiring presentation, and it's interesting to see your market-based approach. Just for your information, the cost for household in Estonia are about 10 times less. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's a better system, but inspiring to see your example for sure. In Estonia, I would say that we're even more market-based, as some landfills are owned by the private industry. Also, the collection of packaging waste is organized by companies. Do you see that you could go even further in your market-based approach?
Well, actually, we could go a little bit further, but not too much. Actually, the only 2 things the municipalities are still allowed to do is collect the waste themselves. They are allowed to own the incineration plants, and they are obligated to own the landfills. And we could demand that they tendered out the collection of waste from households, and that is a debate in Denmark whether or not we should do that. And then the political agreement with subjecting waste incineration for competition was kind of strange political agreement because some very left-wing parties introduced into the agreement that the municipalities are not allowed to sell the incineration plants, and we are willing to buy a lot of them. But so we fought with the municipalities towards the government and the left-wing parties that they should be allowed to sell the plants, but no dice. There was no agreement on that. We're still fighting that fight. And at some point, we do hope that it will be possible for the municipalities to sell the incineration plants. But the landfills, we're not too keen to invest in landfills. Sorry, and in Denmark, landfilling is into a very problematic phase at the moment because. When we first built the landfills, we figured that you should just maintain them as long as you received waste on them, and so you didn't collect any money for looking after them and collecting the water that drips down through the landfill and has to be purified afterwards and all of that, beyond the point where you received waste. Then 10-15 years ago, we changed it so you had to monitor it for 30 years afterwards. And there's not really collected too much money in order to pay for that, but some. So it's half and half basically. A few years ago, the government looked at it again and decided that 30 years isn't going to be enough because it's not safe at that point to just let the landfill mind its own business. Now you're going to monitor and collect water and purify it for 300 years. And that's going to leave a bill with the municipalities for about 3 billion euros to finance that. And that's a big debate in Denmark at the moment, who's going to actually pay for this. And that is kind of that is why we think that landfilling is kind of a problematic private business. Not that I don't have members that own landfills throughout Eastern Europe, but it's kind of a problematic thing because the asymmetry in when you get the money and when you spend the money, because you should collect money up front. And then you should keep money to spend money 300 years later. That's kind of difficult to do as a private company. So that's why it's by law has to be owned by a municipality in Denmark, and we're not looking to change that.